everybody. Welcome to the Internet Citadel Show. We are so excited to have you here tonight. I cannot wait to have our guest tonight introduced, but before we do that, I would like to talk about my co-creator, co-host, Brian Kelly. Brian has over 23 years of software experience. He co-owned a travel-based multi-level marketing company for over 6 years. He is a social media and Twitter enthusiast. If you'll take a look down below, I like plugging it every week because he's put together a phenomenal program called Tweet Performance. He is also working on some other projects right now, and I cannot wait for those to be made ready to share with everybody. I would like to introduce my good friend, Brian Kelly. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, Kathy. Thanks so much for that wonderful introduction once again. We have an incredible show tonight. Extremely excited about our featured guest. Again, we have our good friend JW bringing on our featured guest. But I want to also reciprocate and let everybody know about Kathy Stover. She's been an operations and sales manager for over 25 years in a Fortune 500 company. She has affiliate marketing experience dating back to the early 90s, and I affectionately call her the affiliate queen. And she just achieved a super high designation on eBay. The woman is phenomenal. She also has network marketing experience dating back to the mid 80s. Very well versed individual, very creative and very talented. She's also a current national marketing and sales director for a wonderful new bridal shoe company. It's called Bliss Bridal Shoes. That's blissbridalshoes.com. If you know any young ladies getting married, go ahead and hop on over to that site. They have a great selection of shoes. But what I'd like to do is get this thing rolling. Kathy, I'm going to hand it back over to you, and let's introduce our next guest.
Okay, Brian, I'm reading this here because our guy here has just got phenomenal credentials. Before I get involved with that, I had the pleasure of meeting him face-to-face here about a week ago. You know, sometimes in life you feel like you've known somebody forever. That's how I felt the minute that we shook hands. But anyway, he has 25 years of large and small-scale computer IT administration, project management, network support, starting with NASA and the George C. Marshall Space Flight Center, and working with companies like The Gap, Banana Republic, 99 cents only, Sports Chalet, Washington Mutual Bank. He's just brilliant, unbelievable. He's also the president of Emerald Bay Investments, and I'm talking about JW, who co-founded 2 network marketing companies and the Commercial Real Estate Distressed Assets Association. Say that fast 5 times. The other thing that I want to tell you, and this, I just love this, and I think that it's fun to share this kind of thing, but in the 70s, JW was one of a handful of military personnel that worked as guinea pigs for the government, doing like rocket sled stuff. You got to look this up. And the other thing is, and I think this is really cool, he was the member of a little-known rock band, so, you know, you got to do this, that played the Hollywood rock scene in the early 90s. Okay, I'm not going to say any more, but he's a great guy, just brought some phenomenal folks to the show for us. Welcome, J.W. Nigerian.
Well, you said too much already, because I don't want them looking up my old rock band for sure.
Oh, darn, come on, I love that picture.
Yeah, the long hair, yeah, that was great. Too much leather, too much metal. Anyway, I'm happy to be here with you guys. I love you guys, and you know we've been able to do some great shows to get together. Today, though, is a special day because we have a wonderful person on Spike Humor. I've watched Spike for over the years, speaking with a guru and wonderful speaker, Jay Abraham, who has turned a lot of my business. I've learned a lot from Jay Abraham. He's turned a lot of my business around. I'm working with JV partnerships, and that was all because of Jay and Spike when I watched him at many different venues, and they would talk to thousands of people at a time. I never got to actually meet Spike in person. We're hoping to get together pretty soon to go get some lunch together, but we have spoken many times over the phone, and just recently I got the chance to work with him, and he is everything I thought he would be. He's just a wonderful, nice, warm guy. Anyway, Spike is the founder and CEO of Spike Humor International, and he is now working on a program called the 10-Day, I think it's called the 10-Day Business Turnaround. He can tell you more about that, but he's an entrepreneurial business growth expert with a primary emphasis on startups, turnarounds, and small and medium-sized enterprises around the world. He does seminars, he does workshops, private consultations, and entrepreneurial mentoring. He's just, you know, you want to find somebody who knows about business. You really need to get out your notebook, get out a pen, because you're probably going to be able to take a flurry of notes, because he does give out a lot of meat. Anyway, let me introduce you, and I'll make it short now, and introduce you to the wonderful and my new friend, Spike Humor.
Hey, Spike, how you doing?
Doing great, Brian. What about you?
Doing fantastic. So great that you could come on our show. Thanks, JW, once again for introducing another phenomenal guest on our show. Folks that don't know Spike Humor, once they're done watching this show, through with this show, they are going to be amazed at who just came on our show, and we are very, very excited about that. Kathy, go ahead. Let's get this thing fired off. We've got a lot of questions for Spike, and this man has a depth of knowledge that is sure to really blow a lot of people away.
Absolutely. Well, you know, JW just mentioned in your bio that that you have had some interminglings and quite a bit with Jay Abraham. One thing that I found that Jay Abraham said about you is that you're probably the finest business performance enhancement specialist he has ever met. I mean, that is absolutely phenomenal. But getting to your 10-day turnaround for life and business, Spike, what I'd like to ask you is, what is your vision with your program?
Well, Kathy, it really comes down to a number of things. I mean, first and foremost, my passion is helping people achieve really what it is that's most important to them. And to me, it doesn't matter whether it's business or whether it's life. It could be something in their relationship, it could be something in their health. But the real key to making progress is that you have to take the first step. Right? And once you have movement, you can create momentum. And once you have momentum, you can create velocity. And once you create velocity, you can create critical mass in your life or in your business, or really in just about any area of focus that you may have. But the real key is getting someone to identify really where they are today, where they want to go, and identify what gaps exist between where they are and where they want to be. I help people create a strategy, or help them formulate a strategy that helps bridge those gaps. From that, help them create a system and a process to start implementing the tactics and the action steps that are necessary to make the improvements in their business or the improvements in their life, and then ultimately create an assessment system or a measurement system that says they're on course or they're not. And from that, what that allows me to do is not only help people achieve what it is that they want to do, but hopefully do it better, faster, cheaper, easier, and more consistently than they might be able to do on their own.
Wow. So, you know, when I first saw the title, you know, that it was a 10-day turnaround, is this something that you can actually do in 10 days?
Well, actually, you can do it in 10 minutes, to be quite frank. I mean, because, you know, to me, you know, there's a distinction between what I do and I think the classic definition of a turnaround. Typically, when someone goes into a turnaround for a business, the business is distressed. You know, it's one of those, you know, I call it the oh crap moment. It's the moment where they say, oh crap, you know, I can't make payroll. I get creditors coming. I get the bankers calling. And when I would go into companies in the past, typically it was because they waited far too long to address the situations that were necessary to be addressed. There were signs and symptoms in the business that the business wasn't healthy. There were decisions that were being made or not being made that were necessary to be made. And very often when I went into a business to do that, you had a very short horizon. You had a very short time frame to make effective change, because in some cases it was a matter of sheer survival or perish, you know, or the company would perish. But the 10-day turnaround process, you know, isn't intended to be a static event. It's not something that you do in 10 days and you're done. It's basically helping you create a design for your business or for your life that over the course of 10 days, not only can you identify the key strategies and the key tactics and the key activities that are necessary in your business or in your life in order for you to achieve the things that are most important to you, but it's also about a system of management, a system and a process that allows you to do things over time and do it on a consistent basis.
Wow. So, life and business are two huge factors in most people's lives. So, with that being said, how important is mindset in working with this program?
Well, for me, mindset comes first and foremost, because I believe not only in business but also in life and as a human being. I think we forever limit or propel ourselves based on the beliefs that we have about our capabilities, the beliefs that we have about what's possible, our beliefs about how the world exists and how we interact with the world. And I think, for me, first and foremost, you have to have the ability to see or understand or have a mindset that something else is possible, whatever that possibility happens to be. The second is that you have to be able to have a sense that not only is that possibility possible for you, that somehow, some way, through some means or some mechanism, you can turn it from a possibility into a probability. And if you can do that with a well-orchestrated, well-defined, and well-articulated plan, that not only can you observe, but also you can engage on a consistent basis, it helps not only to enhance your results, it also helps to enhance your mindset, which then allows you to continue the process on and on and on.
Now, Spike, one thing I was curious about, a lot of our viewers are typically those that come in from the internet marketing background, network marketing, things that are based online businesses. The program that you're talking about, would it also venture out and above and beyond the internet realm and go to, say, traditional brick and mortars or large corporations as well?
Sure. Yeah, it really does, Brian, and it's a great question. The process that I use is probably more appropriate for businesses, say, $20 million on down, and I'll make the distinction and then I'll answer your question directly. Typically companies that are $20 million and above, have an infrastructure, they have executive teams, and they have a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of structures and systems in many cases that prevent them from making rapid change or making single-focused decisions. But any business that has a desire to have not only improved performance, not only to have immediate impact in their business, but also to have more clarity of direction and more certainty in their actions, can benefit by this process, because it really is about clarity. And the more clarity you have, the more certainty you have. The more certainty you have, the more possibility you have. And the more possibility you have, the more choice you have, and ultimately the greater range of results you can choose for your life or your business.
Fantastic.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. The thing, how does one's priorities fit within the business model that you have set?
Well, it's paramount. Other than mindset, and I believe mindset is kind of the ignition to start the process, because if you don't have the mindset that you can have something different, it's very difficult to make the change. But I find that in working with businesses and working with people, because in many cases the people that I work with aren't business owners, but they're affected by business, they have a career, or they have some financial stake or some financial pursuit that they have in their life. It really comes down to understanding not only what you want to do, but why it's important, and why it's important and what it's going to give you, and making decisions about certain things you're willing to do and certain things you're maybe unwilling to do, certain things you are pursuing versus certain things you might have to give up. And if you can be clear about those things and be clear about the reasons why those things are necessary for you to do what it is that you want, because ultimately you'll get the payoff in a way that's most important to you and gives you the things that are most consistent with your personal values and your personal vision and your personal mission, and you transfer that or you translate that or align that with your business pursuits, it really is paramount. That's the difference between making a one-time change that becomes a static event versus making a systemic change that becomes part of the process or part of the system over time.
Spike, do you have any either case studies or stories of particular business? You don't have to mention the business name that might encapsulate a little more what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll give you a case study of a company that I worked with, and this goes back probably 7 or 8, maybe 9 years ago. It was some time ago, but I think it's particularly important for the process that we're talking about. I was recruited by a company out of New York City to go out and run a small manufacturing company in the state of Oregon. Now, this was a very small business. It was about an $8 million business in terms of sales revenue. but they had about $3 million worth of capacity. So obviously they had a big gap. Okay, they had a lot of people that wanted their stuff, and they had a lot of unhappy people because they weren't getting it. So they brought me out and asked me to take a look at the business to see how they could best grow the business from a production standpoint and from a fulfillment standpoint, to make sure that they were able to satisfy the demand that the customers had out there and really take it to the next level. Once they got to the 8 million, how did they take it to the 12 million? And because of my background in manufacturing, it was very easy to see that it was a pretty simple process. This company was working 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, and they were pretty much running it like an art studio. Okay, they had a bunch of artists that were in there, and they were making these fine ceramics, and they were all having fun, and it was a lovely place to work. But they really weren't very efficient, and they certainly weren't effective in being able to create things from a production standpoint. So through a very, very simple process of turning it into a manufacturing operation where we put some low-level, inexpensive equipment in there, we ran the operation 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, like a manufacturing facility. We were able to take the capacity from 3 million to 12 million in less than 3 months. And what happened was, while the company became extraordinarily profitable, we were able to hit every single goal that was assigned to me coming into the company, and we were able to do it in really almost unbelievable time, not because I was so great, it was because the solutions to the problems were so obvious. But what happened is that the person who owned the company really didn't want it. They really didn't want the company to be that size. And I sat down with the owner one day and I said, well, what is it that you want? Well, what I want is to have 25 or 30 employees. I want to be able to design my art, and I want to have people that I can be close to. And I said, well, why in the world would you take the company from 3 million to 12 million? Well, because everybody around me told me I needed to have a bigger company. But it wasn't inconsistent. It was inconsistent with their values. It was inconsistent with their personal mission. And because of that, we ended up taking that, after about 9 months, we ended up slowly winding the company back down to a more comfortable level. Now, there might have been a lot of people that wanted that product that were unhappy because they couldn't get it, but the owner, the employees, and the people that were associated with the company not only were more happy, they were more congruent and more authentic with what it is that they were doing, because they understood very clearly what the company was about.
I'm curious.
So communication is a very, very important part of the process.
Well, it is. I mean, the bottom line is, whether it be in life or in business, I mean, we're affected by other people, and we affect other people. And when I would go in and I would do the crisis turnarounds, as opposed to what I like to refer to more as transformational turnarounds, in many cases what would happen is the company got where it got and was where it was because there was a lack of communication, or there was a lack of effective communication, and people weren't willing to face the challenges or the problems or the obstacles that were in front of the company. So in many cases it was easier to turn a blind eye to the problem and procrastinate the problem away. And really the problem never really went away, it just kind of got buried. People didn't talk about it, they didn't communicate it, they really in many cases didn't want to face it. But the very first thing that I would do once I went into the company and we formulated what we thought was a well-reasoned strategy for change, is the very first thing we did is that we got the people together that were going to be most affected by the potential change, or the people that we needed to have the greatest amount of support from in terms of implementing the change, and we laid it on the table. I call it, it's, basically you're drawing a line in the sand. You're saying, look, this is where we stand today. This is where it is. There's no way to sugarcoat it, but you have an obligation and you have a responsibility not only to yourself and to your business, but to the people that you're affecting, to let them know what their stake is. You let them know what their stake is in terms of if you're successful, and what their stake is or what the consequence is if they're not successful. And in some cases, that meant that people left. And I think even if you're doing it in your life, you have an obligation to communicate openly and honestly and candidly with yourself and with the people that are going to be affected by the changes that go on in your life and in your business.
I just wonder if during that whole process you must run into some egos of people that, we've done it this way for years and years and years. It's always worked this way. Don't muddle in my affairs. Did you encounter any of that through your?
Yeah, pretty much every day, and there's a simple answer that a simple way to answer that, and that is, how's that working out for you?
Exactly.
if it's working out for you, I don't need to be here, and you don't need to change. But
right.
there's something that I would share with people, and I share this at my seminars, and there's certain immutable things that we face in life and in business, and one of those things is change. I mean, there's no way to get around the fact that things are going to change in life. They're going to change in our marketplace. They're going to change in our relationships, regulations, the economy, competition. Lots of things are going to change. Our industry is going to change. But there's a concept of managed change or planned change versus forced change. And when I refer to the old crap moment that I would go into and I would work with businesses when they just really got up against it, they got up against the wall and they just had to make a change because there was really no alternative if the business was going to survive. I really moved away from that, and I moved away towards something that I enjoy much more, and that is the aha moment. Where you can get someone to realize that it's not that where they are is not acceptable. It's not that where they are isn't successful. But maybe there's something more. Maybe there's something better. Maybe there's something that serves their values and serves who they are and who they want to be as a business owner, who they want to be as a person to a higher level, to a higher degree. That it satisfies their mission or their values or their purpose to a more intimate level. And if you can get people to realize that there's an aha moment and get them to realize the sense of possibility of all the things that are in front of them and help them be clear about the reasons why they want to pursue it, help them create a model to do that, not only is it a case where the change is actually a planned change, it's a desired change, as opposed to being a forced change or a negative change.
Nice.
Spike, let me ask you, we meant before the call, you mentioned Chris Atwood is a friend of yours, and he and his wife, Janet Atwood, wrote the book, The Passion Test. And you seem to be talking about the business owner, what his goals are, what his, what he's trying to accomplish and what his values are. Does the passion really come into it?
Well, it does. I mean, I think it's much easier to be motivated when you're passionate about something. Now, it's not saying that every business owner is going to be in love with their business. I mean, that's just not the reality. I mean, some people use their business as a means and a mechanism for other things, a lifestyle, or the fact that it gives them a certain amount of freedom. In the case of the business owner that I used in the previous example, I mean, part of the reason that there was an incongruence there is that not only did she not want to have a large company that she couldn't control or couldn't have a relationship with the people, but it meant 7-day-a-week, 24-hour-a-day demands, which was not consistent with their lifestyle. But if you can align someone and their occupation or their business or whatever pursuit they have in their life to something that they're passionate about, it's easier to see through the tough times. It's easier to make the decisions about what needs to be done. And really what happens in most cases is that people aren't clear about the reasons why they need to make a decision, and so therefore they feel like they're having to give something up, or they feel like they're having to make a sacrifice as opposed to pursuing something that they really, truly, deeply want and really, truly, deeply deserve.
I've got a question that I've heard about this all my life, and maybe you can shine a little light on it. Often go into businesses that are ma-pa businesses, and it's often stressed that the person who started the business and has got it rolling and running successfully should probably just now go find somebody to run it, because maybe they're not as good as running it as they were starting it. Have you seen that? Is that true, do you believe, or you think that a small business owner, just by changing some things that they do, can run it successfully?
Well, the answer is a definite maybe. And let me share with you something I call the entrepreneur's dilemma. And in my experience, and this, I can't prove this as a universal truth, but in my experience and in my observation, it's almost universally true, or it's universally consistent. Let me put it that way. And that is, there's a phase in an evolution that almost every business goes through. And the first one is the startup, right? You start the business. Then the next thing, you go from startup and you struggle to survive. And bottom line is most businesses don't make it. But say they do make it, and they get to the point where they got past the survival mode. Now they're struggling to kind of figure out where they want to go and get to the next level. And that next level may be $1 million or $2 million. And generally what happens, that's one of the stagnating points. If a company can survive, if they can break that $1 million barrier, now they have probably the skill and expertise to get to maybe $2-3 million. But at $5 million, something else kicks in. At $10 million, something else kicks in. And then after that, then they have decisions to make about, really what they want the business to be. But what happens is that, in my experience, almost every business that survives and gets into the stability phase, or they start to approach a degree of success, that business will start to stagnate. And where it stagnates, generally, if it's an owner-operated business, or a mom-and-pop type business, or an entrepreneurial-based business, that business will stagnate at whatever point that business owner is limited. And what I mean by that, most people get into business because they're professionally trained. They're a doctor, they're a chiropractor, right? They may be a great practitioner, but they don't know how to sell. Okay, if they can't sell or if they can't market, they're not going to get patients. Or maybe they're great at selling, but they can't manage. And if they can't manage, eventually they're not going to be able to grow the business. So whatever that limitation is, and we all have it, that business will stagnate until that owner either identifies that, supplements that by hiring or bringing in a consultant, or they go out and they get trained in it. But until they overcome that limitation, until they overcome that constraint, until they overcome that inherent bottleneck in their business and in their skill set, that business will not grow. Now, if you're lucky enough and if you're open-minded enough to recognize that, and you can bring someone in who not only can do those things for you, and it allows you to kind of get back to your passion, allows you to get back to the things you do best. It allows you to get back to the things that you can do that are going to have the biggest, most significant impact, not only on what's important to you, but also what's important to the business. You can move to that next level. And again, then the limitation process kind of starts over again. But if you build that in as part of your model to identify that and to supplement that or overcome that or eliminate that constraint, you can continue to grow your business for a long time.
Well, and Kathy and I can so relate to that to a T. I cannot tell you how much work it takes just to run a show like this and the amount of effort that goes into it. We're looking to other alternatives to help us in our daily rituals, if you will, or weekly rituals,
Right.
so that we can, just like you said, pursue what it is we are passionate about, to get our creative juices flowing once again. You get boggled down in all of the stuff we know how to do, and it's exactly true what you just said. I mean, it's happening to us right now. We're growing at such a great rate that now we've kind of outgrown our britches, and we're our buttons are popping, and we need to go find some bigger pants and extra pairs and all that for people to help us. So very right to the point, don't you think, Kathy? That was
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was kind of watching you. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about it is, you were talking about helping people and getting to that aha moment. We are at that. We're constantly in that aha phase. It's just going and going and going. How do you help people that are not at that point? How do you help them go into and recognize that specifically?
Well, there are a number of processes that I use, but I'll just give you a couple of quick strategies that people could do, actually while they're on this video cast. I mean, one is that if you were to think back to where you were 5 years ago, and you were to think back, who you were and what your business looked like or what your life was like 5 years ago, and you were to say, what was it that I wanted to happen over the course of 5 years? And you were to look at where you are now, what you're doing right now in your business, in your life, in your relationships, and if the answer is, what I wanted to do 5 years ago is exactly where I wanted to be and where I am today, congratulations. But for most people, it really isn't the case. So now it comes down to, okay, well, what is it that I really, really love about my life or my business, and what is it that I'm willing to accept in my life or in my business, and what is it that I'm just no longer willing to tolerate in my life and my business? And once you've identified those things and you get very clear about what it is that you want and what it is that you don't want, it's a lot easier to formulate a strategy. When I go into a business or when I work with an individual, I mean, it's not that I have better answers. I mean, the bottom line is most people know what to do. And it's just that in many cases they stopped asking the right questions, and therefore it's hard to find the right answers. And I think there's a process that I think many so-called experts or consultants or advisors that I think they miss, and that is, most consultants or most experts will go in and they'll tell you what to do. Okay, this is what you do. This is what you do. This is what you do, and they'll even tell you why to do it, why it's important. And everybody's sitting there, well, I know that. I know why it's important, and I know what to do. And if you have a good consultant or you have a good advisor or you have a good speaker or a trainer, I mean, they're even going to give you some of the how. Okay, but what almost everyone misses, when someone comes to a live event, they come to a seminar, when they walk out of the room, what happens to 90% of the people in the room is that they go back to doing things the same way. Exactly. Because the speaker, the trainer, and the person at the event missed the most important thing, and that's the what if. Okay, the what if, I know that I'm supposed to do this, I know why it's important, I know how to do it, but what if I go back to my business and something happens, or what if I go back and the plan that I put on paper while I'm at the event doesn't happen? They need some kind of a process to measure their performance, but in many cases, they need a coach, they need a mentor, they need an advisor, they need a mastermind group, they need a support partner that helps keep them on track.
And I think that's something that and I'm speaking for a lot of people, I'm sure, we just miss that.
Yeah.
We miss that whole part of it. And, you hit the nail on the head. We need to have the coach, the mentor, someone like you that's going to put everything in perspective for us and help us to rethink some of those things and get headed and pointed in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Spike.
Well, I was going to say, I have a number of support, people and factors that I keep in my life and my business. I have a mastermind group. I also have a peer mentor group that I belong to for a long period of time. Because even people who supposedly have figured it out and advise other people on what to do. We all get seduced by the same things, and that is, there are so many things competing for our attention, and there's so many things that compete for our energy in terms of opportunities and obligations and those types of things. If we don't have some mechanism, and in many cases it's another person or a group of people that can help us stay true to what it is that we feel is most true for us, it's easy to get swayed.
And sometimes I hate just hosting the show. I'm writing notes so fast I can't keep up. This is this is so great. So when I duck down like this, people are watching. I'm taking notes. This is incredible stuff. And yeah, I can watch our own recording afterward, but there's nothing like doing it live, and you retain it better. That's another tip for everybody out there. But wanted to let everybody know that. Well, first I want to ask you. You have a book in the works. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's actually a series, and I'll tell you a little bit, if you don't mind, real quickly.
Absolutely.
About the series, and then I'll tell you about the first book. My belief is that, that you can't, even if you're going into work with a business, and many consultants, and there's some great consultants out there, they go in and they work with the business, and there are a lot of people that are out there that are great personal performance or personal development or personal growth experts that are out there. But I think very few people actually bridge the two. And for me, I don't think you can work on a business without working with a business person. And I don't think you can work with people without looking at other areas and other elements of their life. And one of those being their career or their business or their financial situation. So there's actually a series of books. And the first book is called The 10-Day Turnaround for Business, how to transform your business virtually overnight. And it takes people through a very systematic process of planning, implementation, execution, and management and measurement in the whole process. But the second book is The 10-Day Turnaround for Life. And that is much more encompassing. And then there's another one that's going to be 10-Day Turnaround for Wealth and Prosperity, the 10-Day Turnaround for Health and Fitness, and the 10-Day Turnaround for relationships. And it's not just romantic relationships, it's business relationships and personal relationships. Because to me, if you're able to address all of those areas in your life and in your business, you can have a true and lasting and profound impact. Now, to me, it doesn't matter what doorway people walk through when they say, I want to make a change. It's a question, do they have the resources necessary, and do they have the information available to them that they want and that they need when they need it? And I think for me, the process of creating lasting change is that you do it from a holistic system, or a holistic standpoint, or a systemic standpoint, where you take into account all of the factors that are important to people.
Fantastic. And you're actually coming up with a system, is that true, or something that people can access through a website here coming in the near future?
Yeah. In fact, the book for the 10-Day Turnaround for Business, that there's going to be a resource involved, and there's other things that go with that. There's also a series of seminars and teleclasses, and just a lot of ways to access the information. And there are people that I work with in small group mentoring programs. There's people that I work with on an individual basis, both for personal performance enhancement, but also for business performance.
Okay, and just so our audience knows, as we're shooting this live, that information isn't readily available at this moment, but Spike has told us before the show it's coming pretty quick. So by the time this becomes a recorded version of the show, there may well be a website ready and ready to go, and you can click on the link beneath us for that website. You can also click on Spike's nose over here to the side as well to get more information about Spike Humor himself. But definitely come back and check back. What we'll do is we'll notify everyone who's on our quote-unquote email list when that becomes available. So be sure to click on the register link right above us in the middle once the show's over, and make sure you opt into that list. We do not send out sales materials, this, that, and the other. We just talk about when our next show is going to be, or something important new that's coming up. And this is important. What Spike is about to make available to the mass public is not something that I know of that's ever been made available before. So very valuable. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got, and to I love the titles of the series of your book. It hits on so many great. I mean, when you talked about relationships, health and fitness, it's interesting you bring that up, because we had a show completely centered around that, and it was related to business. And you know, it's like hitting the nail on the head as far as Kathy and I are concerned. And you're the expert, and you know, we're sitting here going, patting ourselves on the back. We're doing okay, but but just wanted to make sure everybody click on his links right now as we're taping this live. It's going to go to his Facebook and Twitter accounts, but very, very near future, when it's recorded, we'll announce to all of you who are on our opt-in list where you can go to his recorded video of this show, and on that same page will be live links to those materials and resources that we've been talking about, the website with the books to order there as well.
Well, and the other thing that I would like to bring up too, Brian, if you wouldn't mind sharing, is that Spike has graciously offered some phenomenal information as giveaways for tonight as well. Do you want to tell them a bit about that?
That's right. That is right. Spike has offered three different, three individual half-hour private via telephone coaching sessions. He has very graciously agreed to give that away as a drawing or a gift. 3 people will win, and to get the information on how to enter, it's very fun. It's Twitter based. All you have to do is, again, click on that register link, opt in. Once you opt in, you'll get the information you need and the link to go to enter that drawing. It's like I said, it's a lot of fun. You get to tweet about it, and a lot of it's automated. It's not a lot of work, and each time you perform an action, you'll earn a point or multiple points depending on the action. And think of the points as like tickets that you're throwing into a drawing bowl, if you will, a raffle. The more points you accumulate, the better your chances of winning. And yeah, definitely get in on that as well. If you're watching this recording and it's been a couple weeks since we've done this live, it may not be up anymore. Be sure to get on it right away. So be sure to register on that link before the quiz or the drawing is over. Glad you brought that up.
Do we get to do it too? Do we get to do it?
Absolutely.
Ooh.
In fact, I may enter myself. I could use the work.
I don't know. I think, don't we have some fine print that says something about friends and family or something? I don't know.
There you go.
That's a great gift because a half-hour with Spike would be well worth it.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Spike, I wanted to ask you something because you brought it up, and first of all, I really like the holistic approach, because a lot of the gurus out there, they all pick an approach, and they're really good at that approach. One of the things that you talked about that a lot of people don't talk about, Keith Cunningham once said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Mm-hmm. And you slipped in the measuring word a few times, and I always find that people always think they have to do more, and what they're not doing is measuring what they're already doing.
Good.
No, it's a great point. And by the way, I spoke with Keith yesterday. He's a friend of mine too. He's a bright man. You know, that whole process and that whole concept really comes out of the Deming philosophy. And I learned that in manufacturing. You know, that which can be measured can be controlled, and that which can be controlled can be optimized. But there's also, I think sometimes people have an aversion to having that measurement because it puts what they feel is a restriction or a control on them that perhaps they don't want to have in terms of accountability. They feel that it limits their freedom or it limits their choice, but it really doesn't. And I'll tell you why. Because at any point in time you can change the game, but if you're going to change it in a way that's going to serve you best. But if these are the rules that you choose to play by, you have to be able to keep score. And that score that you keep, it doesn't have to be in dollars and cents, although, if you're a business owner, in many cases that'll at least be one of the components. But in some cases, it's not even quantifiable, but it can be qualifiable or it can be observable. It can be demonstratable. Like for instance, if one of the things that I want to do is that I want to lead a more healthy lifestyle. Now, there's certain things that I can do. I can count calories, or I can count the number of hours that I go to the gym, or the amount of weight that I can lift, and all those types of things. And they're quantifiable things that I can keep track of. But also there's observable things. How do I feel when I get out of bed in the morning? Do I have more energy? Do I have less energy? Do I feel that, at 10 o'clock, I want to go have a beer versus, I want to maybe go out and have a stroll around the house. I'm now more active. They're observable things, and they're experiential things that you can engage in that still can provide the measurements that you need and that you should have if you're committed to a process and you're committed to a goal. And without that system of measurement, it's so easy to slip back into what's comfortable and what's common and what's familiar, because it's already a habit, it's already ingrained, it's already part of our homeostatic process that says, you know what, this is what we've been doing for the last 20 years. But the measuring system will allow you to at least gauge your progress and hold you accountable.
I was going to ask you, I know you do masterminds. Do you have an accountability buddy? Or?
Yeah, I do. I actually have a number of them. And one of the things that I do is that there's certain people that are in my life. There's a business partner of mine that we sit down and we review business goals, and I'd love to say that I bat 1,000, but I don't. And but we have an agreement, and the agreement is that we're respectful to one another, but we're also candid with one another. And if I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, I mean, the accountability person says, okay, what was it that prevented you from doing it? And for a long time in my life, I was an accountability coach for executives and business owners. And one of the things that I would do is that once a month I would meet with them in person for an hour, and once a month I would speak with them on the phone for an hour. And when someone told me that there was something that they wanted to do, we would get very clear about why it was important. We would figure out what the sub-activities were. And then when I'd have the next touch base, we would say, okay, what did you do? What were the results? And if they didn't do it, okay, what prevented you from doing it? Are you still committed to it? And or what is the time frame in which you're going to do it? And if more than twice went by, the question came up very, very bluntly and very plainly. Is this something you're really truly committed to? And if the answer is no, let's stop pretending that it is, and let's change it. And I have accountability partners that I do that for, and ones that do it with me.
That's an incredible way to help someone focus on what it is they truly need to get done. I mean, Kathy, you and I, we've been hearing this over and over and over again about join a mastermind group, get in a mastermind group, get involved in a mastermind group. For those out there that are not involved with one, I mean, Kathy and I are kind of a miniature mastermind group, and JW is becoming more and more part of our group each and every day, and we love he's given us some unbelievably golden nuggets of advice down the road. He may not even realize it, but
absolutely.
JW has just been a gem and a dear friend to us. But how would you, Spike, recommend that someone who has not yet got involved with a mastermind, where do they even start? Where do they go look for someone to get involved with?
Well, there are a number of ways to do it, but before I share that with you, can I give you just what I think are some important criteria to have in a mastermind group?
Sure.
Number one, you want to find people that can provide value to you, but also you can provide value to in return. Okay, because it's got to be a mutual thing, otherwise it won't last. The second is, it's important that you find people that you like and that you can work with, but at the same time, people that are going to care enough about you and be committed enough to the process of the mastermind that they're going to be open and candid with you. I mean, if you want someone who's going to tell you what you want to hear, you can there's 1-900 numbers that you can dial for that. but if you want people to tell you what you need to know or what it is that you need to do, you need to have people that have a vested interest in your success, either emotionally or reciprocally or in some cases financially. The next thing that I would say is that first and foremost, look for models in your life, and they may be people that you know directly. I mean, because you can have a mastermind of models of people who have already accomplished a certain level of performance or a certain level of success in an area that you want, and if you can use those people as model mentors and you can have those people be part of your mastermind group, that's tremendous. But very simply, sometimes it's just a question of 2 or more people getting together and focusing on a common objective, and being able to bring people in or expand on that, is something that's very, very powerful. The next thing that I would offer is that a lot of times when people say they have mastermind groups, really what they have is social networks, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, I have friends, and my wife and I love to entertain, and we like to hang out as well. But my mastermind group, while I'm friends with most of those people on a social basis, when we meet specifically for the purposes of doing a certain amount of action work, things that are geared and designed towards helping us achieve our goals. And we get together physically 2 or 3 times a year, and there are also there's some people in there that are kind of personal advisors that I know that I can call if I have a problem or have a challenge, and I can speak to them about that, and they can do the same with me. I call those people my movers in the middle of the night. The people that if I called them up at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, you know what, I need to move right now. Can you come help me? They would come do it, and I would do the same for them.
Wow.
But I think it's important that you have people that'll be candid with you, that have some degree of capability or competence in a certain area that they can bring something to the table. I think it's absolutely vital that you can contribute value to them. And collectively, that you can contribute value to each other. Otherwise, it either turns into a social network or a social group, or it dissolves very quickly.
I officially have writer's cramp now. That was incredible. That's going fast and furious. That's good
Like
because
that
not
was
many
well
people
said.
touch on that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, a lot of people are saying, well, there's a lot of, if we kind of bring this down a little bit to, the guy who's working at home running his MLM company, and he wants to make this thing work, and he has no idea how to get it going and how to test if he's doing the right thing, and besides my brother-in-law, how am I going to find somebody who's done this well? Two things I'd like to say is, number one is, first thing I'd like to ask Spike is, how can the guy in the small home business get going? And the second thing is, I know from my personal experience, I'd just like to say, whether it be me meeting Spike or me meeting, I just recently pulled on the co-founder of FedEx and Kentucky Fried Chicken onto my advisory board. And I did that just by asking, but first finding out, is there something I can do for them?
Yeah.
And if there isn't, of course, there's really no relationship there.
Right.
But there was something I could do for him, and now he's joined my advisory board, and he's asked if he wants. He said he would be a mentor to me, which is, more than I could have ever asked for. So all you really have to do is ask.
Yeah.
It's incredible what you'll get.
Yeah, and it's a great point, JW. I mean, one of the things that, and you do this, I think in an incredibly humble but yet effective way, and that is, I think Kathy was asking me earlier about mindset and why mindset is so important. If I see one of the biggest common constraints or hindrances that people have in their life and their business, and that is they undervalue themselves or they recognize their skill sets. And if you understand very clearly what it is that you bring to the table, what it is that you offer, what it is that you have from a strength standpoint or from an access standpoint, and you understand that that's something that you can offer to someone in return or in exchange for something that perhaps you need. But unless you're clear about what it is, unless you value yourself, it's very difficult to ask, because in many cases, you underestimate the importance of that. As a trainer and speaker and consultant, I mean, one of the things that I suffered from and suffered through for a number of years is that I assumed that because I knew it, that everyone else knew it. And one of the things that I realized when I started speaking from the platform, that what was common knowledge to me was not common knowledge to someone else. But one of the things that I do with people when I do personal consultations is that I sit down and I have them do a personal SWOT analysis. Now, for people in business, especially in corporate business, you understand what a SWOT analysis is. It's not like swatting a fly. It's SWOT, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I have them focus on creating a long list and creating a detailed inventory of all of the strengths that they have. The strengths that they have as a person, the strengths that they have in their business, the strength that they have in their network of relationships, the strengths that they have from an experience standpoint. Because if you understand all of the things that you have, and you can best figure out how to apply those things to create value to people who could have a significant or important impact and profound impact in your life and your business. I think most people focus on their weaknesses and they say, okay, how can I prop up my weakness? And if I can prop up my weakness, my business will grow. Baloney. It doesn't. What you do is that they spend more time propping up the weaknesses than they do focusing on how to leverage their strengths, and that's where real growth comes from.
Interesting.
That's huge. That's a huge nugget right there.
Yeah, that absolutely makes a lot of sense. Let me ask you this, Mike. Would you say that the program, as you are putting it together, is it an easy model for people to follow along, and is it going to be you doing the coaching and mentoring specifically, or is it going to be something where they can go into a place and kind of go at their own speed?
Yeah. Well, and a great question, Kathy. I mean, there's actually a variety of ways. One is that I have live programs, and I conducted one in Australia a few months ago, and we had about 100 people that came into the room, and we took them through the process of designing their 10-day turnaround strategy over the course of 2.5 days. The book, in large part, will give you many of the things that, in terms of tools and exercises and rationale of how to do that. For people who are looking to, for more involved or more intimate type interactions, there's group mentoring programs that I do and have done for years. But the process, really is not that complex. Like I said a few moments ago, it's not that I have all the answers. It's just that I think I know a lot of the right questions, and really it comes down to not me offering people the answers of what's right for them. It's helping them find a process of exploration for them to find the answers, and then to create a system that they can implement it and do it on a consistent basis.
Fantastic. My goodness. How are we doing on the chat there, Kathy? We got any folks chiming in at the moment?
No, everybody is listening intently because he's got so much good information to throw out here for us.
Yeah.
I think they're just listening tonight.
I'm personally writing so fast I wouldn't have time for a question.
I know. I've been taking notes myself. I was trying to be a little discreet here, but yeah, I'm taking notes too.
Well, Spike, wait.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Kathy. I just really wanted to ask him. Maybe you can ask him. I know he's going to be doing some speaking engagements. I don't know where they're at. Maybe you can tell people if they want to see him, or if he's going to be around their area.
Oh, that's perfect.
Okay. Well, I actually have a number. I'm going to be speaking for people who are in Asia. I'm going to be speaking at the National Achievers Congress in both Malaysia and Singapore with Tony Blair, along with a couple of other speakers. I also have an event upcoming in Los Angeles at the end of June. Which is not solely on the 10-day turnaround for life and business. It's a lot of the elements from the 10-day turnaround for life and business will be there as well. I'll be speaking in Thailand in June. I'll be speaking in China in July, in China again in September. So not a lot of U.S.-based events here in the next couple of months, but I'm always forming mentoring groups. I generally form a new mentoring group about every 6 to 8 weeks.
Now,
telephone-based.
Where can one go to get on some kind of notification list to know where you're speaking? Because when you come to LA in June, I definitely want to be on that list.
Well, in a matter of days, if not a matter of a week,
Okay.
you'll be able to opt into a list that I can share that with you. But most of the information and most of the things that I do are posted either on Twitter or Facebook or both.
Okay.
So that there's reasonable access to me in the meantime.
All right.
But it sounds like you need to do more of these. It doesn't sound like you have enough speaking in this country. You need to start some. Yeah. Because we want to go see you and hook up.
Well, the thing is that's really fascinating to me because when we work, that's very much a part of our life. So having an opportunity to have the information as far as a turnaround with our business and our life together, to me it's fascinating because it's oftentimes very separated, even though it's intermingled. So with that being said, the life part of it, of the business and life, how is that approached specifically?
Well, believe it or not, Kathy, it's not distinctly different. It really comes down to identifying, what's your personal mission, what's your personal vision, what's your personal values. What are the personal values? What are the things that are important to you? And from that, we help people identify what it is that they do really, really well, what it is that they really, really want, what it is that they don't do so well, and formulate a strategy to help them bridge those gaps. I'll give you a very simple model that I've used for years, and the book talks about this, and it's called the Asia model.
Okay.
When I look back over my consulting career, both doing personal performance consulting and for years I did personal development seminars. There was a process that I used both in business and in my personal growth seminars, and it was a process called ASIA, A-S-I-A. And the very first stage was the assessment stage. Okay, assessing where you are, where you want to go. Okay, now it seems very, very simple, but most people don't take the time to do that. Assess, are you right now, today, in your life and your business where you want to be? And if the answer is yes, great. How can you continue to do that and make sure that it happens for a long period of time? If not, where is it that you would rather be instead? Okay, that's the assessment. That's the A in the Asia. The next step, the next phase is the S, which is the strategy. Formulating a strategy to help you bridge that gap between where you are today and where you want to be. Okay, now a lot of people stop at strategy. Okay, I got a strategy. I'm gonna get healthy. I'm going to start going to the gym someday. Maybe one day, I might sign up. I'm getting ready to. That's a strategy. But ultimately, it comes down to the I, right? The I in Asia is implementation. That's the tactics. That's the steps that you have to take. Okay, those are the things that you want to make sure are aligned to the strategy, that really tie into the things that you have identified in your assessment phase that says that I want to change. And then the real key to making this a lasting process is the final A in Asia, which stands for assessment, which is the management process, which is the measurement process, which is the ongoing adjustment process. Because the plan that we put together today for ourselves 5 years from now is going to be obsolete in 3 months. And if we're not making ongoing assessments, if we're not making ongoing adjustments, if we're not making ongoing changes, and we're not measuring our progress along the way, we're never going to succeed in the long term.
And how often should we do that assessment?
Well, it depends, and it depends on how big the steps are. There are a number of ways you can do it, but one of the things that I do, and one of the things that I suggest, is that you do it no less than monthly. You set up where, what the progress and what the benchmark.
I think we just lost his audio.
I think we did.
Interesting. Well,
Spike, can you hear us?
Oh, we just lost the guest speaker.
Spike has left the building.
Welcome to the internet.
Yeah, technology.
Well, you want to know something? It was actually perfect timing.
Yeah.
Because we are just right at our hour.
Exactly.
So that must have been some kind of cosmic interruption there or something. But I just would like to say that Spike was absolutely phenomenal, wasn't he, guys? Amazing, the information that he was giving and sharing with us tonight.
Yeah, it's like this hour goes by so fast, and the information shared is so vast that I can't, I just want to pick their brain even more. It's never enough.
I know, it's amazing.
An hour
absolutely
is never
amazing.
enough.
And JW, again, thank you so much for bringing us another phenomenal guest, for our show again, and just being a part of it with us. Just amazing, absolutely amazing. And next time you come on, you'll never know what I'm going to share about you, Mr. Rockstar. But anyway, I just want to tell our viewers that came to share with us tonight, thank you so much for spending another action-packed, nugget-filled, informational hour. And I'm going to turn it back to you guys.
Yeah, and I concur, and JW, once again, my friend, thank you so much. You just keep bringing us phenomenal guest after phenomenal guest. Without you, this show would be a shell of what it is right now.
Oh, no.
Oh,
you
yeah,
guys are great.
Absolutely. Appreciate it beyond
much.
Belief, and we look forward to joint venturing with you and many things as we've discussed in the past. That's the beautiful thing for those watching. When you meet people, get to know them real well, find out what they want, like JW says, what you can do to help them, and it just opens up the sea. JW walks the walk. He did just that. He says, what do you guys need? And I told him we need speakers. We need guest speakers. And he's flooding us with incredible speakers. He's a huge giver.
And let me interrupt real quick and say we actually have a guest on viewing from Australia right now, James Sarian, that all three of us met down in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, hey,
James. So he's joined us tonight as well. So really exciting. And, we need to say, Spike, we hate that you dropped off like you did, but thanks again. JW, what would you like to say before we go out here?
Well, I'd like to say we need to get James Sarian on the phone. This guy really is incredible at startups and SEO, and I'm just intrigued by this guy. Every time I get him on the phone, he blows me away. So
we actually have him coming on March 23rd.
How perfect is that? He is awesome. So I'll be there.
Yeah.
Can't wait,
I would like
James.
to say thank you guys so much. As always, you always make me feel at home, and like I feel like the co-host sometimes. You guys are wonderful. And also, we do have some great people coming up. So tell your friends out there, that to come check us out. The speakers have been great, but we have more to come. So keep watching.
Fantastic. Well, with that, it's been just over an hour. That was like impeccable timing. I'm sorry it happened, but if it had happened, it couldn't have happened at a better time that we lost Spike. But
exactly.
Let's see. Next week we are not going to have a show. Is that the next week? Yeah, it's next week.
Right.
Kathy and I are
right.
going to be attending an event here locally to me. A little bit of a trip for Kathy, but we're going to be meeting with Mark Victor Hansen, a little kind of a mastermind group of its own. But we will be back 2 weeks from tonight with another great guest. We've already got her lined up. To find out who that is, be sure to register, and we will definitely get the word out to you. But with that, I want to respect everyone's time, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Thanks, everyone who came on live, and JW, once again, thank you. Kathy, as always, thank
Peace
you.
out.
We will see you all in
Good
2
night.
weeks. Good night.
Good night.